Greetings, Scribblers. Kent Shawn here, and today we take a break from our usual programming to bring you the 4-Word Writing Challenge. This writing challenge is a collaboration between the infamous DR Ranger Writing, the tumescent Tommy Doolan, and the witheringly lovely Writing with Lilith.
That's alliteration.
Yep, alliteration. But before we get into it, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss one single sandwich of my delicious writing picnic. The rules are simple. You are given 4 random words by your writing partner, and you must write a short story that contains all 4 of those words. Try to keep your story between 500 and 1,000 words long. Not to be confused with 4-letter words, which is really why I agreed to do this thing in the first place. So, Writing with Lilith and I exchanged words. DR and Tommy really wanted to work together because apparently they're the only Australian AUTHORTUBers who are not currently on fire. And, you know, I'm not saying Lilith wanted to work with me because I'm devastatingly handsome.
You just frickin' said it.
But, well, look at me.
No.
All awkward jokes aside, Lilith sent me the words descent, profession, earthquake, and honor. Personally, I think she took it easy on me. And now, without further ado, I give you the last drop. 5 minutes to drop. The grizzled platoon sergeant, Sergeant Gary, bellowed to be heard over the whine of the dropship engines. The 16 troopers echoed the order down the line and started final checks on weapons and equipment. Staring out the portal, Gary watched the hellscape of the fissured countryside slide by below. Steam and gas escaped like dragon's breath from the rents in the soil and rock. The pilot had begun his descent, and soon the smooth ride would be over, as the small dropship faced violent updrafts from the fissures in the wounded planet. The platoon leader joined him at the portal. Sergeant Gary. Sir. Command says the Barati are swarming. This fresh string of earthquakes has exposed a nest. Is this an abort? Or is it our turn? Our turn. The entire regiment is coming behind us. We have to at least try to secure the LZ. Sergeant Gary nodded. So, this is it. Looks like it. Well, it's been my turn for a while, Gary said with a grim chuckle. Ever think you chose the wrong profession, PL? The platoon leader nodded. He was tender-faced and young, but his eyes were hard. Weak drop troopers had short lifespans, and this was his 21st jump. By this war's standards, he was an old-timer. Something in his face caught Gary's attention, more than seeing his end 4 minutes away and closing. We switched the number 2 man, the PL said. Right, Lipinski's leg went bad. It's Private Roy instead. Tough break for him. It wasn't his turn. It isn't Roy. Gary looked like he'd been doused in ice water. He brushed past the young PL and stalked down the line. He grabbed the helmet of the number 2 trooper and yanked his head back, peering down into the fear-widened eyes of a very young man. Sergeant, the trooper said. Gary was silent for 5 precious seconds, staring at the white-faced boy. They swayed together as the dropship was buffeted. I'm sorry, the young man said. Gary released him and stalked back to his viewing portal. He grabbed the PL by his body armor and crammed him up against the bulkhead. You knew about this? The PL didn't fight him. Instead, he placed a gentle hand on Gary's arm. He answered Roy's name at roll call. You were prepping the drop harnesses. I wouldn't have let him on board. The PL dropped his head. It isn't his turn. No, it fucking isn't. He's too much like his dad. You can put him on a door gun. Trade the gunner's life, Gary spat. The thought disgusted him. Almost worse than the idea of what a swarm would do to his troopers. Razor talons, the hot gush. Barati were like lions. They didn't wait till you were dead to eat you. Put him on the aft gun. One less trooper won't make a difference, Sergeant. You know that. Gary released him, sagging against the bulkhead, his resolve draining from him like blood from a wound. 1 minute! The pilot called out over the intercom. The troopers echoed the call down the line and stood, slamming orange-painted iron hooks into slots in the tracks above their heads. Roy's replacement couldn't get his hook to sink and lock into the mechanism. The kid was a mess. Guide strap twisted, hands shaking. This was his first combat jump. Gary parted the armored jostle of drop troops and took hold of the tangled kid's hook. Gary's hands sorted the straps and fastened the buckles. His mind fought him like a cornered animal, crying out to haul the kid off the drop line and bury that orange hook into the slot at the assistant gunner station. He had to decide now. They'd be over the drop zone in seconds. His hands had finished their work. "It isn't your turn, Private." Gary's hard eyes softened. The scared boy shook his head. "This is where I want to be." Gary's eyes flicked to the gunner's chair, and the boy must have sensed his intentions. "Let me do my job, Dad." The pilot called 30 seconds. The troopers echoed it back. Several of them had taken an interest at the scene in their midst. Faces solemn with terror and understanding swayed in the crimson light of the drop bay. They would forgive Gary if he saved him. Gary slammed the hook into the drop rail and tightened the guide strap. "Have a good drop, son." Private Gary smiled and squeezed his father's shoulder. His hand was shaking, but his grip was firm. Gary strode to the drop door and buried his own hook into the rail. The PL was waiting and gave him a nod. The drop door opened and the noxious vapors of the rifts flooded the cabin. The green jump light came on. Gary turned to his troops, eyes on his son, and shouted, "It's our turn, boys! It's been an honor." He beat his chest and the troopers answered, sounding their war cries. Locking eyes with his boy one last time, he smiled and gripped his weapon and addressed the drop door. With a mighty leap, he led them, men and boys, one last time into glory, the last drop.
A feel-good romp if I ever heard one.
That was depressing.
Please, let me know how I did in the comments. Unless you didn't like it, and then you can go jump off a cliff. Special thanks to Writing with Lilith for the awesome words she gave me for this challenge. You should definitely go right over to her channel and check out what she did in response to the words I gave her. It was amazing. It's actually way better than mine, which, never mind, don't go look at hers. If you want to see more challenges like this, or better yet, participate in one, let me know in the comments. Now go on and check out Writing with Lilith, DR Ranger Writing, and Tommy Doolan. You won't regret it. Or, if you do, it's really not my problem. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. You can follow me on Instagram or Twitter, or please come visit my website, kentshawn.com. Till next time, Scribblers, butts in seats, fingers on keyboards.